Call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence, please. Thanks very much. I need a motion to approve the school board meeting minutes of February 18, 2013.
So moved.
Seconded by Hank. Changes, additions, deletions, corrections, other modifications. Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as presented?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Hank abstains.
Yes, Sue's on, right?
Yes. I will pass the correspondence folder around, which has substitution reports in it.
Can we just see how well Sue can hear with the blowers on?
Oh, they're supposed to shut those off.
Can you hear Sue? Sue?
No.
Suzanne? Are you still here?
She's not.
Is she totally off the line? Or does it look like it's somebody still there?
How would I tell?
It should say on.
No, it doesn't show she's connected.
All right. If you disconnect it and then hit speaker
It's
again.
not on there anymore.
You have a thing how much time she's been on there and everything.
So, lower right-hand corner. See the button that says speaker? Push that. 9. 660-9955.
She wants to talk to us.
She's over it. She was Skyping earlier. It might have just put her
Your
over the
call
edge.
has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Huh.
Does she have access to calls?
No.
Again?
Sure.
She usually would call my cell phone, but I left my cell phone on my desk at home, so she ain't gonna reach me.
Commendations and good news.
6655.
So
The Maple Avenue Kids Vote is going to take place on March the 12th at the high school from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Each Maple Avenue student who comes will receive a ballot from the following School Spirit Day activities to choose for or to vote for. Their
If
choices.
I could just jump in, I can't even hear her from here.
They're shutting it off
Shutting
right
it off
now.
Okay, could we hold for 30
Sure.
seconds? Thank you.
Okay. I'll use my teacher voice.
Oh, go for it. Your outdoor voice.
Leave office. It needs a little rest tonight.
Oh, you hit 9 first.
How are you doing, Jennifer?
It's noisy. That's why I've asked them to
Yeah.
turn them
I don't
off.
think you could hear either.
No.
603. Yeah, go. 603, I think. I get tapes on this and do not turn off. The ACs.
You know what, can you just turn them off? And then I think the problem was she had these or they didn't get them.
We don't need to put the 603.
So can you
I
get,
think it's
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Can you just turn them off? I'll tell Barry. Just turn them off, but can we just make sure at the end of this meeting is they go back on? Or can tell them I ordered you to do it.
Show her minutes or...
There might be a big senior citizen event going on. She had to run out for it. Something must be wrong with the cell service down there.
Yeah.
That'll take care of that piece of business.
You want me to just
Okay.
Please.
Yeah, why don't you start over?
Okay. Maple Avenue has some good news. Kids Vote going to take place on March 12th at the Goffstown High School from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Each Maple Avenue student who comes will receive a ballot with the following school spirit activities to vote for. They can choose from Crazy Hair Day, Stuffed Animal Day, and Sports Day. And I guess each of those days, depending on which one wins, they get to dress up in that particular way. And it's for school spirit, of course. They're going to receive an official Kids Vote pencil for participating. And thanks to the parent volunteers, the PFT, who organized this program, and our student council who created the Spirit Day list and volunteer at the polls.
Just out of curiosity, can we track the number of votes that come in so we can see if the kids do as well as the parents, or
I think
the
the
other way around?
PFT does that. I think that because they usually let us know. I think they do that.
Right.
They have in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is PFT, so
Yeah.
they would know how
I'm
many.
pretty sure they can let us know. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Let's see who wins that horse race.
Yes.
I don't have a whole lot. Megan's going to talk about some stuff, but I was just going to mention the proposal that we're putting in for a possible pretty significant grant for gardens on campus here and landscaping ideas. The leadership class and the environmental club and the culinary department are working on it together. And it's interesting timing because I was just invited to UNH this past weekend to an institute on sustainability, and we talked about all kinds of new ideas for integrating service learning into stuff like this. So it was really interesting. We got a tour of the campus too, and all their sustainability initiatives, and it was really inspiring. They have some LEED certified buildings, for example, very efficient systems. And they have, I don't know if you've heard about this, but they have a pipeline from the Dover landfill collecting the methane gas to a generator on UNH campus that powers 85% of their electricity needs. So, not that that's realistic for us anytime in the near future, but it's inspiring, and should we pursue a grant at some point, it would be pretty awesome.
And I did get the grant, and so it was really to kind of take the area where we have the greenhouse, finish up the greenhouse, and then really look at putting in kind of year-round planting so that kind of creating a nice atmosphere out there. If you ever look at those kind of interior sections, we have a couple of them, they're just not, they don't look great. So this would help that, help the environment. And
You're
then,
talking about the two courtyards.
yeah, the courtyards. Yeah, so to spruce them up, put some livable plants in, then hopefully work with the culinary club. You were looking to maybe get like a dehydrator for some vegetables.
Yeah, that's the other thing they had at UNH. They have a new major that links culinary, that major, hospitality, or whatever it's called, to nutrition and sustainable agriculture. It's called eco-gastronomy. So it's a very new thing, but it was very weird timing that this was offered to us with these two links, and I was able to go to this, and there's all kinds of new ideas coming. So Mr. Greenland is involved, and he's excited about it, so we'll be potentially growing things for the culinary kids in class, possibly store for the year and stuff like that.
So it sounds like these are the seeds that are of something that could be with us for a while.
Yeah, this is a lot of money. Gardens don't cost that much, so it will sustain this for quite a while, for years. And we can get into landscape plants too, like fruit trees and berries and things like that. That can be here for a long time. That can be really. The idea is to create a model landscape for sustainability, kind of.
Great, that's good news. Megan.
All right, well, obviously we had vacation, so there isn't a ton, but Winter Carnival last week, that was really, really exciting. The assembly was really good. I don't know if anyone went or anyone heard of it. Yes, it was really great. The skits were awesome, and I'm part of one of the senior skits, so I've been walking around the halls for 2 weeks prior, so you could definitely tell that there was a lot of energy and there was a lot of hard work being put into the skits and into the whole assembly itself, and it went really well. So the seniors won for the skit, and the juniors and seniors for the first time tied for first place, which is really great for both of them. I think it was good for both groups to win. It's the first time ever that's happened, and also for the first time we're starting a winter carnival like plaque that'll go on the wall, so all the winners every year will have their name, or the class of 2013 and the 2012 will be on there for this year, the first one, which that is pretty cool, I think. Also, the science fair is next Thursday, so the AP Bio and the AP Chem students are working on those. There was a bit of an issue. They changed the rules this year, so you actually, when you submit your proposal, you actually have to be done your project. You have to have data, and that's a totally new. They never had that before, so normally when at this time they submit, their proposal, they don't have any data yet. So, but that got worked out this week. So, luckily, we all get to do our projects and we all get to go. So, previously we weren't really sure if our AP classes could actually go to the science fair. So that's been resolved, and that's really good. That's about it.
Thanks very much. Any other good news?
Do you want to talk about this?
I do.
I'll go next.
Go ahead.
Okay. To piggyback on what Megan said, I did attend the Winter Carnival final finale on Friday, and I was very impressed by the fact, as I stood in the corner of the gym and I looked along the bleachers and the wall, everybody was paying attention, everybody was engaged and having a blast at what they were doing. And when it was announced that the juniors and the seniors tied, it took about a half a second for one of the seniors, big burly guy, to turn to one of the juniors, big burly guy, put out his arms to get a hug, which I thought was really, really cool. It took half a second. Everybody, there's some groaning going on, but what I really saw was, okay, let's make the best of this. I also went to the Wizard of Oz. I went there initially planning to talk with people who were in attendance about the elementary funds renovation committee, and decided, heck, while I'm here, I might as well stay. And it worked out really well in that I got to stay and talk with people at intermission, which was probably a better time. But more so, I want to talk about how incredible the Wizard of Oz was. What a performance. The Munchkins or the dog may have stolen part of the show, but just kudos to everybody involved in that particular performance. The orchestra was fabulous, and the performers were amazing, and stagehands getting Glenda. I know it was Flights by Foy, but it was just awesome to be there in the purest sense of the word. And that's all I've got.
Any other good news?
I believe that our girls basketball team went to to first round of playoffs, and they were beaten. And I believe the hockey team in quarterfinals. Am I correct on that?
I actually don't know.
Okay, I believe that's what I read in the paper.
And the rumor that I heard is that the boys basketball team is going to playoffs on Wednesday night. That's the rumor.
Okay. So congratulations.
I'll get the scoop and I'll send it out.
All right.
What's the tickets? Yes. I don't think caught up that far.
Middle school boys hockey starts the championships too. Wednesday.
So everybody should have in front of them a copy of the town report. I would invite you to turn the cover and please see that one of our members and a long time contributor, mostly in volume and not necessarily in years, to our community has been recognized, Suzanne Trebley. The town report this year is dedicated to the service that Suzanne has provided to our community for these many years, which requires commitment, persistence, and dedication. And so we thank her for her service in many arenas. I'm only sorry she's not on the phone. But hopefully she did get through to the selectmen who told her about their decision to recognize her service. So if you also decide to serve your community for the next 28 years, you too.
I was just telling Ginny that she's getting up years and years of service. She might be up for it soon.
This is a beautiful picture, Suzanne.
It is. That is. It's a terrific picture. It really
Oh, my
is.
goodness.
And it's demonstrative of the fact that you too can finally appear on the insert of your town report if you serve for a little while.
Well, we've had a past winner here as well. Hank
Yes.
Boyle.
Yep.
We're well represented on the school board.
Absolutely. Public comment.
Jeff Trexler, Dunbarton School Board. First of all, I went to see the Wizard of Oz with my wife. We liked it so much we went to see it again. Wonderful show. And congratulations to Sue. She's been around quite a while and has been a stalwart of the board over the years. I want to talk briefly about the short-term tuition agreement. I know it's on your agenda tonight. Just wanted to let the board understand where this is coming from and how we got to where we're at. Philip had asked us to put something together back in November. Rainey put together a rough idea of concepts of a short-term tuition agreement in November. We refined it on November 29th by putting together a list of principles of agreement that could form the basis for an agreement. I emailed that to Philip on November 29th, and Philip got back to me on December 1st, said it was on Monday's agenda, December 3rd, for the board. Hopefully we can have some ink by Tuesday. I don't see any reason not to have a conversation Monday, Tuesday to nail something down in principle for boards to approve, under the assumption that this was going to move forward. Nothing much happened since then. Shortly after that, we had our joint area rental charge meeting on December 5th.
If I may?
Yep.
This is a forum for public comment.
Yep, and I'm making a public comment.
And I'm not sure that this is something other than a history.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it's a public comment. So if at the end of this there is a comment, a point to be made,
There is.
why don't we start with a point, and then if anybody on the board has questions, that might make sense.
The point is, the Dunbarton School Board has repeatedly mentioned that this is an important issue for Dunbarton families and the board, and that it was our understanding that this was going to be acted upon, and acted upon promptly, and before the district meeting votes. What we found out 2 weeks ago when we were here is nothing has been done. We had no contact in the 2 weeks in between. It's on the agenda for tonight. I'm asking the board to act. We're looking for the board to act. So far, we've heard talk, but there's been no action. We've expected action a number of times. It was one of the keys. We heard that the board was receptive to this. It was one of the keys that unlocked the settlement for the rental charge issue, as well as cleared the decks to come up with our area agreement issue. So we expected that the board would follow through with having this short-term tuition agreement. So we're looking for the board to act.
Any questions? Seeing none. Any other public comment? We have.
Can we move
We can.
new business D up?
We're good with the boards, unless there is no objection. We have a new business item, a residency waiver request that we'd like to address at this time. And I don't see any objections. So.
And I will, Marcella Albert is here with her son, Mason, if you have any questions. But in general, they have been Goffstown. They were actually New Boston residents at one point. They became Goffstown residents. Mason went to Maple Ave Elementary School, is now in 6th grade at the middle school. Due to unforeseen emergency situations, they moved back to New Boston. They weren't sure if it was temporary or permanent. It has become now more permanent. And they are requesting to see if Mason can stay at Mountain View for the remainder of the year. As you know, 6th grade, he would normally go to New Boston Central School, and then 7th grade come back to Goffstown. I've spoken with administration at the middle school. They're fine with it if the board approves it. So thinking about the child and the best interest of them, of not having to come here and then go back there and then come back here in 4 months at this point.
Question. Is there a financial burden by New Boston for the remainder of the year for him?
If the board approves it, no. The board could approve it pending them agreeing to pay a tuition bill.
And there are no special services he requires.
It's a regular
Regular
tuition.
Yeah.
Right. Would just out of, go ahead, Jeff.
How is transportation being arranged?
I've been providing it for him.
The only point I was going to make is that New Boston does provide transportation for their students to get to Goffstown.
I understand that.
And so that if that was something that you needed, that would be an issue that board would have to take up.
Right, understandably. So far, that hasn't been an issue.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I have another question. Has this been brought up to the New Boston School Board?
No. It's a request of the Goffstown School Board to remain in Goffstown.
Right. I guess maybe if I were to make a motion to have it, then the New Boston School Board would have to make a decision whether or not they would approve some kind of agreeable tuition arrangement for the next, not a whole lot of time. What do we have? March, April, May,
3 months.
Start of June. Yeah.
My thought is, at this point, we usually allow kids to stay across the board, usually when their parents are moving out of town.
School year.
Yeah. My thought is, he already has his books, he already has his desk. Probably most of the expenditure for his tuition really has been encumbered already. So there's really not much out of hand, I would say, that we would have to, I don't know, come up with.
It's negligible.
I would agree with that.
If there's a motion.
The motion that he stated.
I'll second the motion that he
With
states.
transportation being arranged by either his mother or the Boston School Board.
I'll second that.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
I have one question.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Would you agree with the statement, Stacy, that I'm going to use the number expenses rather than encumbered, because we're not going to gain anything for a teacher. There's not going to be any additional less for the teacher. Maybe supplies are involved. Any other expense you can think of that the school would bear?
No. And I would say when I have a little bit more information on the circumstances, and I would support this, and so did Mr. Hunt, just given the circumstances.
I'm supporting it because in 6 months he's back anyway.
There might be a couple pieces of paper for
Yeah.
assignments or something, but he's
Sure.
already got books, they're already assigned, so there's really no huge additional cost.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We're unanimous.
I would just like to say that probably if this were a situation with a Goffstown student in New Boston, they would probably reciprocate the same way. I think.
We'd hope they would, yes.
Thank you for coming this evening.
I'll send you a follow-up letter just letting you know that it's approved.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good rest of the year.
Straight A's, right?
That's right.
All right.
Oh, can we put that in the motion? Ms. Marlowe, please say yes.
Quid pro quo. Standing committee reports. Human Resources.
We meet next Monday, 5:30, the SAU. That's our last one until elections, and we figure out what new committees are.
And the second read will come up at our next meeting.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, we have to skip 1 week.
Great. Planning and Communications.
PNC met tonight. We talked about a few things. First on the list was recognizing Volunteer Appreciation Week. That's coming up April 21st through 27th. So what we've talked about is a similar practice to what we've done in the past, which is, we have a letter here. I'll go ahead and read it out loud if you would like. It reads, in observation of Volunteer Appreciation Week, the Goffstown School Board would like to take the opportunity to express our heartfelt thanks to the hundreds of volunteers who donate their time and energy to the district. Your countless hours of hard work and dedication enrich the educational experience of all our students and are greatly appreciated. Thank you. What we'd like to do is submit this to the newsletters of the different schools, to Glen Lake, Bartlett, Maple Ave. We need to get it in for the Grizz first of the month, which is why we're doing this so far in advance. Do we have general consensus of that? We're good with this?
Do you need a motion?
I don't know that I need a motion.
I don't think so. Yep.
I don't think so either. We also discussed Teacher Appreciation Week. That comes up in May 6th to 10th. Historically, we have likewise sent a letter on paper to our staff, but the reason for addressing this a little bit further in advance is to take the time to consider if there's any alternative action that we wish to take. I know in different districts, school boards do different things for their teachers. So we had a discussion surrounding what could we do for them, what are we able to do for them, and we had talked about, if we were able to provide coffee and have school board members on hand, in the morning to help serve the coffee, or make such a gesture. So I'm looking for board feedback on their feelings on this, if this would be something our board members would be able to do.
I would volunteer to do at least one morning.
I have some mornings a week I can. I have like 2 that I can.
I can do Monday or Friday typically.
Okay. Lori?
I'm pretty much all out all May.
Possibly Thursday or Friday.
Okay. Dan? Is that something you can do? Or?
I have to look at my calendar.
I just don't. Right now we're so far in advance. I'm wondering if it's a possibility, if this is even a feasible thing for us to do.
Like me making coffee?
No.
You would just have to serve it.
Serve
Thank
it.
you.
Being present.
I can serve the coffee. You don't want me making your coffee.
We'll get it all made for you.
Hank, is this something you think is realistic for you? Well, we don't have a day. We're just trying to know. I'm just looking for some feedback before we even pursue even trying to do this. I need to know that we have some
It's a
support.
morning thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have time that I could take in the morning,
Okay.
What
All right.
month is it in?
depending on the day.
May 6th. We're out. We're just looking to make sure we explore
Yeah.
our options and we know. Okay.
Nothing else comes up.
So it looks like we have some support. Okay. All right. So we'll move forward on exploring that option. And then lastly, what we had discussed is we had some impressive volunteer support for the different open houses at Mountain View and then at the high school. And we're looking for a way to recognize that. And so we're putting some feelers out as to the possibility of when we can get these people together in their respective schools as a way to recognize their efforts for going above and beyond.
So
Go ahead.
If I can just add something
You
to
can.
that. And if Mr. Trexler would like to speak to it, because I know you were there, all the better. There were open houses held at both Mountain View Middle School and Goffstown High School so that the residents of the community of Dunbarton would have the opportunity to view the schools, listen to what is going on in our classrooms, ask any questions, and so that the folks who could make it could be better prepared in their decision-making. I will tell you that I only was able to visit Mountain View Middle School during the open house that they held. I saw a level of commitment, enthusiasm, and dedication exhibited by professionals at all those buildings who took time out of their evenings away from their families for what it was fundamentally a non-student enterprise to speak to parents and families about what they were doing in their schools. And I will tell you that I thought they knocked it out of the park. They did an exemplary job of representing both themselves and their schools and put on presentations that were, I believe, wholly indicative of what's going on in both of those buildings. And I thought it was important to recognize their efforts and to thank them. So that's really where that comes from. And so we're examining how we might do that, because really this was much to the benefit of the citizens, families of Dunbarton and Goffstown, and of great benefit to the district and our buildings and all of our students.
That's it, Pansy.
Curriculum and education.
Our next meeting is on the 11th at 7 p.m. at the SAU. And there's always invitations will be or have been sent to New Boston and Dunbarton boards to come to that meeting and join us. At our last school board meeting, we kind of tabled the school handbooks. People wanted more time to peruse, and I know they were put online. And did people get a chance? Do you feel comfortable with going over those? Or I have a list here.
I think they may not have only been online, but they were emailed.
They were emailed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
If anybody just wants me to go through and give a quick run over of what the changes were in each handbook, I can do that, which is a lot quicker than reading them all.
May I? Dan?
I have a procedural question, because we have that listed as item A in new business. Did you want to discuss it now, or did you want to wait till then?
If there is no objection, it would properly find its home here as well as there.
Cool. Then I have a question. In every single one of these, there was a new setup called the emergency school closing procedure. And reading it, it appears extremely docile, that we're going to try everything we can get to get the word out to everybody. There's one piece of this that is not necessarily a quiet notification, and that's getting a phone call at 5:20 a.m. So people like me who don't get up till 6, or babies or things, could get calls automatically. I'm wondering if we have something in here where we could have a procedure to opt out.
So parents can choose whether they get an email, phone, or text. They can go online and choose that.
Is this only parents, or is it also staff?
Staff we determined if they did not want their home phone used, they could use their cell phone, which they could turn down. So the reason for that, we had lots of discussions around this, is remember, the system was not purchased to make snow calls. The system was purchased for emergency management. So if we had a crisis, this was the system we were going to use. So we are not allowing staff to opt out, per se, because then they would have no way of getting that information should we have a real crisis. So what we have suggested to staff, if they don't want to hear the phone ring, is to give them, to replace that with your cell phone number. If you have that, you can just turn your phone down or put it on vibrate or something. We have to figure out how to, because it will become our emergency management system if we have a crisis. And so we can't allow people to opt out because there's no way for us to manage then who has opted out and who has stayed in.
Are we legally obligated to do this?
Are we legally obligated to have an emergency management system?
Yeah.
No.
Because what I'm saying is, without an opt-out provision, then we as a government entity are forcing our hand on people in their private lives. And that...
I would say, and if we had a crisis or emergency and somebody didn't get the message...
That would be their determination, because they opted out.
I would have issue with that.
I guess employees don't have the option to opt out, but parents,
why not?
Parents of guardians.
No.
I'm just trying to just reiterate what we have here.
I don't agree. I do not agree. You can't usurp into the private and personal lives of people. Now, that just bothers me.
Well, I think we should stick with the handbook, because this is a student handbook for students and parents.
And if there's a policy issue...
You're right. If that's not part of this,
no, this is student and parent
handbook. I'm okay
handbook.
with an opt-out procedure. Now, do we have to list something in here that has an opt-out? Or
Parents get a letter that tells them how to log in and it's right in Power Announcement, and how to log in and how to change those settings.
Then you're right. It's definitely part of a different discussion, which I would request the chair put on the agenda for...
I will rely on HR to the extent that what you're asking about is
you think it's a
policy question. We do have a policy that speaks to that.
In fact, fantastic. I would request that HR
discussed
look at that policy.
To notification.
I think that might be up for a second read next.
I think it is.
That one's up?
Next meeting.
Cool, because super. That's perfect. We'll talk about it next week.
About that. So, Are there any other questions regarding the student handbooks?
Do you want me to go over the list, or is everybody comfortable with going on?
I think because everybody's had the
They've done
chance to
their
see them.
homework. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
And so unless somebody wants a recapitulation of the changes in brief, I'm going to leave it to the questions.
Could I make the motion that we approve the handbooks to all the schools with the changes that we've all read?
As presented.
As presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions?
I just want to say thank you because I asked if we could have had a 2-week respite so I could review them, and you guys said yes, and so I appreciate that.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We're unanimous. Ginny, did you have anything else?
No, that was it.
Budget Committee report.
Budget Committee last met 2 weeks ago, and it was an incredibly quick meeting, so there's nothing to report. It was just very, very quick before candidate information night, and there was really nothing to report.
Elementary Facility Review Committee. Actually, committee, not review. We're past the review stage.
We're on the committee. The agenda says TBD for the meeting. As far as I know, the meeting is tomorrow night. Okay, it got posted appropriately?
Yes.
Okay. So we're meeting here tomorrow night in the conference room at 5:30. Signs were planted and have started to spring up all over town. Postcards, as far as I know, have been prepared to be mailed. We received donations which supported both the production of the postcards and the postage required for them. PFT volunteers stickered and stamped, and they're going in the mail. I believe tomorrow was the original plan.
Yeah, tomorrow, Wednesday.
Yeah. Other than that, we did not meet over break. I know.
And we should say that the fundraising and everything was actually, money was donated to a PFT in order for us to be able to, as a committee, buy the signs, etc.
I'd like to personally invite board members to hold signs on the voting day on March 12th. If you could let me know when and where you'd like to hold a sign, I'd be happy to get you a sign.
Can we get them at a location, or do we need to get them ahead of time?
No, we're going to have to take some off of the road and put them on stakes.
Okay.
So that's something that we'll have probably place at both schools in the morning.
Okay.
Yeah. So just let me know when and where you want to be, and we'll set you up with a sign.
Very good.
We'll try to put at least three signs at each of the voting places, so 3 people can be there with them. So you see, we're really excited to come out. 3 at each school.
Administration and Finance.
You didn't
There was
meet
no
today?
meeting.
There was no meeting.
No
So
meeting.
do we have?
Canceled.
So we're going to move down to.
No, we have a manifest.
We do have a manifest, but that comes next. Superintendent's report.
Just a couple things, just a reminder, next Tuesday is a teacher workshop day for Goffstown, so that there's no school for parents who are watching. No school on Tuesday. I also received a nice email from Muriel Urquhart regarding, if you remember, they went to the National Strings Teachers Conference, and she sent me a little picture, so I'll pass that around, that it went really well. It was very well received. Professor, I'll kill his name, Norgard, from Georgia State University, who wrote the jazz book series that they were presenting on how to teach, was there, and he was very impressed. He's asked them to do another kind of follow-up series on Skype for another group of teachers, so Mira was very happy. She actually asked if she could come to a board meeting and talk about their experience, so I'm trying to get her here for the 18th. So to do a quick presentation with the students, talk about what they did and their experiences there.
Will they bring their instruments?
I don't know, we'll see. Maybe they'll come
I
play
heard
us
there were no
something.
behavioral issues.
Yes, she said it was very successful. Students were very well behaved. made all of us proud of our community. They received many compliments on how well all the students played. I want to thank Jen Thoreau for her service. Today will be her last meeting, although we've been telling her she can't leave yet. She's not done until vote.
She's not done until her replacement is sworn in, and because it's a contested race, it'll be a week after election. So.
And so Lloyd.
You know, it reminds me of The Godfather.
Yeah. And
She
then,
thought she was done, but she's not.
just some dates coming up that you'll likely hear about. We are actually, the high school, the middle school, and Bartlett Elementary School are pilot test sites for the Smarter Balanced Assessment, which is what is replacing the kneecap. So the high school is 9th and 10th grade, will be somewhere in the range of March 14th to the 27th. Bartlett is April 1st to the 12th, and that's just 4th grade. And those were a part of a study, so we get chosen to participate. You didn't have to, but we get chosen to participate as part of the study. And then you could voluntarily do it. So Mountain View is going to do it voluntarily April 29th to May 10th. One of the reasons we do that is because they're testing the whole school. So one of the things we want to see is, because it's all online, what it looks like in a pilot to test 900 students. So we took that on as a kind of, for us to know what that looks like, to see how long the test takes, things like that. So you may hear people talking about us doing that assessment, but it'll be a good gauge for us to see technology-wise where we are with that, as well as what the test starts to look like in a changeover.
Just out of curiosity, will this new assessment give you real-time data feedback?
It will be quicker feedback than what we're getting with kneecap. It will not be take the test and here's the score. Okay. It will be quicker, though. That's what we're told. And that's all I have. It was vacation weeks last week, so it was quiet.
Manifest and vouchers.
Okay, this evening we bring a manifest to the board valued at $909,983.94. You should each have a handout which depicts the major elements. We can quickly review them. There was a single payroll on the manifest. The payroll was dated the 21st of February. The value was $480,220. Associated taxes, $164,277, for a total of payroll-related costs of $644,497. On accounts payable activity for the past 2 weeks, special education expenses, and these are invoices in excess of $5,000. There was a total payment to the Lighthouse School, $15,014. And this was for services provided to 3 students during the month of February. There was a bill from the Spalding Youth Center for $6,191. That was a tuition charge for the month of February for a single student. General expenses, we had an $11,800 bill from Fred Fuller for oil deliveries to Goffstown High School. There was a bill from the Goffstown Truck Center for $96,628. This is for regular education transportation during the month of February. And the last element is $7,396 charge from RICO, and this was for the February business machine lease.
I move the manifest of $909,983.94.
Is there a second? Jenny?
I have a couple of questions, comments.
Please.
The payments we made to Cisco Boston LLC, what did they do again?
Food service provider.
That's what I thought, just general food stuff. Now, we have a payment to PSNH on this manifest for a little over $4,500. And I know there are other electric providers. Are we buying the power from PSNH as well?
Currently we are. The school district is teaming with the town of Goffstown to go out and seek wholesale pricing.
Yeah. That was my next question.
Yep.
I think that came up in our last or the meeting before.
Yeah, and so we're just moving in that direction. Okay.
We are.
I had a question about the bus payment, $96,628. I understand, it's my impression that the bus transport costs per month are close to $100,000, as is this one, but we didn't have school 1 week. And you say this covers the month of February, so what is the arrangement?
The arrangement is really, includes one of the last weeks in January and the first 3 weeks in February.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. And by any chance, do you happen to know what we paid per gallon for oil?
$2.99.
$2.94.
Beautiful. Beautiful. We're lucky.
That's a contractual.
It's our contract price.
That's our contract price.
Nice.
We negotiated that under better circumstances, apparently.
Well,
That are
yeah.
present today.
My question comes from my time as I sat on the budget committee, and I remember the heated conversation about the fact that we hadn't fully expensed the line in a very warm winter, and why do you think you need more money than what we think you need?
It's always an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we lucked out on that price. We hit it at the right time.
All in favor of the motion as presented?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We're unanimous. Old business.
I have before me the study. I've got a copy for each board member. So this is the completed final study. I can't provide you much because I have only gotten to page 23, so I haven't gotten very far in it to even provide an overview of it, but I will post it on the website tomorrow. I'll send out an email to teachers and administrators just letting them know it's there so that they can take a look at it. I have scheduled a staff meeting for Mountain View's next staff meeting sometime to talk to the staff about it and kind of start to begin what are the next steps of the process. So now that we have this, let's look at it, let's digest it. It's long, it's 116 pages. So let's look at it and digest it and figure out what are the next steps. My guess would be it'll be several subcommittees to look at different areas of focus. So I would encourage you to take your time. Like I said, it's lengthy. I only got to page 23 today. Hot off the press this morning off my emails. And so take a look at it. West Ed is willing to come to a meeting if you have any follow-up questions or thoughts for them. Just let me know and we can arrange to have them come. From what I've read so far, it seems fairly thorough. And I think hopefully you'll be satisfied with the results of it and we can really dive into there's some real strengths and there's some challenges that we need to look at. And we'll take them on and move forward.
Did they give you an overview?
There is an executive summary in the very beginning. It's like
So
couple pages.
if I may, instead of entertaining this now, I encourage everybody to take some time, read through it, come back, listen to a discussion, and probably at that point we can then as a board make a decision as to whether or not there are questions that necessitate West Ed coming back and having a conversation with the board.
Any particular page on the website?
It'll be on the front page. Where typically we put.
No, I like electronic copy because then I can bring it on my little pad and bring it with me.
I had to work with Gary to get it up there because it's 116 pages. I got to figure out how to get it there.
Did it come in a PDF or? Oh, that should be easy.
We should be able to do.
Standing committee descriptions.
So I asked board members to look at their committee assignments and get us information, trying to kind of update our description. The only one I got was HR. So I'm going to pass it around. So HR is recommending we change the name to a policy review committee because that really seems to be the function of it.
Hey, do we need a motion on that? I'm ready.
So so I would look for a board to adopt their recommendation.
Okay. May I? So I'm assuming that you don't have this in front of you and you haven't seen it yet. You're willing to adopt this without having read it?
No, I said adopt the title of the
the title, I'm sorry.
policy review
I just-
committee. No, just the policy review committee. Name,
So
the
quick, I can
title.
read. So new name is
Fair
the
enough.
Policy Review Committee.
Do you have
And Lori, feel free to
coming this
jump
way?
in. The Policy Review Committee, Subcommittee acknowledges its responsibility to assist the board in fulfilling its role as a policy-making board. Policies should be broad enough to indicate a line of action to be taken and narrow enough to give clear guidance. The Policy Review Subcommittee shall meet soon after the board chair appoints subcommittee members. The subcommittee members will elect a chair if the board chair has not appointed one. The subcommittee will propose revisions, deletions, and additions to policies as needed and report monthly to the total school board. The subcommittee shall review policies from sources including New Hampshire School Boards Association, administration or board requests, and or through periodic review, and will request board administration and staff input on policies as needed. So if the board approves that without any changes, then we'll make that the new kind of description for the Policy Review Committee.
Because really, that's what we've been doing for the past.
Can I ask the members, of which you're the subcommittee chair, do you like this? Would you have any revisions, or did you write
I
it?
wrote it. The committee actually
Excellent
wrote
work.
it. The committee actually together worked and
Yeah.
wrote pretty much going, what we had there was not what we were doing. The purpose and what we were doing is not have been our vision and goal over the
And this
past.
is really, all you do is the...
This is what we've been doing
policy
for the
review
past,
subcommittee.
at least last 5 years that I've been on that subcommittee, because we didn't have time for anything else that was in that description.
Is there anything in the old descriptions, that I don't have it here, that we won't be doing, that we had envisioned we want?
The only other thing that was also in there was about reviewing contracts, which we always seem to get another subcommittee to make when staff contracts
yearly
are done
committee or
anyway.
something like that.
So it was a repetitive part that we weren't actually doing anyway.
Negotiations typically for individual contracts occur at a different subcommittee level that gets created.
Don't I know
So
that?
you've been there.
Yeah, all summer.
So that was the major deletion, and then the wording was changed to reflect what we've actually been doing.
Any other questions? Lori, would you make a motion to adopt?
I will make a motion to adopt it.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We're unanimous.
And if I get any other ones from any other committees, let me know, and we'll add them on next agenda. We got one down. 6 months. That's good.
That's good progress.
Under new business, on our agenda next is a tuition agreement with Dunbarton. We represented that this would be something that would be an agenda item on our next meeting. The question is whether or not the board wishes at this time to either discuss and or direct the direct a response to Dunbarton with regard to the proposal that they have offered for a tuition agreement beyond July 1, 2014.
Need a copy of the proposal?
I'm going to need to.
I don't have it all.
Okay. Can I make copies on that machine?
I think we need a code.
Yeah, you need a code.
Anybody got a code?
Sam?
Sam, you
Sam,
got a code?
do you have a code for the copier?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Oh, I do?
So we have teacher reps we can get.
No. The trade, no.
While he's doing that, you want to skip over and just do subcommittee for Honeywell?
Yes.
Keep it moving.
Yep.
So Ray and I met with Honeywell to review the energy audit that they had done and their recommendations. And it was about a 2-hour meeting that Ray and I had, and we're pretty familiar with what they've been doing. So speaking with Honeywell, we were talking about what the best way to approach the board with this was, and we thought perhaps a subcommittee meeting with a smaller group of people, meet with Honeywell, with Ray and I, and then bring a recommendation back to the board with a summary. And we didn't know if the entire board really wanted to sit through probably a 2.5-hour presentation. It's pretty detailed stuff of what they're looking at doing. And so it was Ray and I's recommendation to recommend to the board that we perhaps develop a small subcommittee that will just meet one time with Honeywell, review the details extensively, and then bring back a recommendation to the board on whether we should go forward with that. With Honeywell being here and maybe the opportunity to ask questions, but that we didn't know if it was in the board's time interest to spend 2.5 hours.
Probably not.
Because most people will be, it's pretty detailed information.
And it's an entire meeting.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to do a subcommittee.
What is our... Sorry.
No, I was
I'm
just
having a
saying-
hard time hearing.
I was just saying that it makes sense to do a subcommittee where 2.5
I agree.
hours, it's an entire meeting.
So if I can recapitulate just really quickly, they've gone out and they've done a study. That study, if you do nothing, is going to cost you $25,000, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. The goal of the study is to it's to save money, and basically the benefit you get is primarily, if not exclusively, through cost avoidance after making an investment in changes. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Dan.
My question, what is our timing for this board to make a final recommendation?
We want to bring a final recommendation back for the October 1st meeting.
No, the April 1st.
April 1st meeting.
Okay, you give me a little bit the October 1st. I said I will have time between
I'm
then and
thinking
now.
November. Yeah.
April 1st, and the whole intent really is to decide what the board wants to do with respect to the CIP presentations.
Thank you. So if we can get it to the April 1st meeting, we can get it on CIP for that process.
I'm all in favor of the subcommittee, and I would volunteer. It's just cherry picking the timing because of my other activities.
Yeah. And so we could, once we know who the committees are, we can find out what the best time for people to meet are and choose a date.
So are there any other victims?
I'll offer, provided I'm able to.
It's pretty interesting stuff.
It actually is, and if you don't have them and would be interested in looking over some of the prior data, we might be able to cobble together prior year reports.
I still have them.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was part of the original one, or my position on the budget committee. I kept a lot of the information and actually championed it back then. And we have saved more. We have cost avoided more than what was anticipated.
Yeah.
Almost threefold, I think, on the first one.
Yeah.
That would be in no small measure because of the price of oil.
The price of all fuels, electricity.
Yeah, that's
So we got
true.
Dan and Diane.
No.
Anybody else?
Anybody else? I would be happy to, because I think I'm reasonably familiar with it.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll touch base with Honeywell hopefully tomorrow, and we can get some times and dates that work for them and us, and we can hopefully match something up with you guys.
That could be.
You now have before you an initial proposal that was received from Dunbarton regarding what a tuition agreement might look like beyond July 1, 2014 in the event that the Dunbarton community were to elect to tuition their students to Bow. Ostensibly, that would leave some students, or could leave some students, in the Goffstown School District attending, if you were to measure using the expired, concluded, terminated, avoided, whatever you call it, area agreement that will end July 30th, only high school GHS students. In my conversations, with Dunbarton. I've indicated that I believed, because you gave me the charge, that we would also open our doors to include any students that were already in the middle school. Ultimately, it would be Dunbarton's choice as to whether or not to allow those students in their community that choice, which might be affected by any agreement that they had with Bo. But I don't see any reason why the Goffstown School District wouldn't leave that door open. We aren't bound by any agreement if the new area plan is not adopted. And therefore, I don't believe that we can look backwards to the language in that school. The other pieces that you may wish to consider are rental charge and whether you use the negotiated rental charge in the area agreement that they would not be a party to were they to elect to go to Bo, whether you looked backwards and used the rental charge that existed in the pending area agreement, or whether you chose to do something different. Regardless, you still are faced with uncertainty. The uncertainty you're faced with is the uncertainty that has been before us since August of 2012. And so that's the framework in which I believe you would be making a decision to respond, not respond, offer some alternative proposal tonight. It may be that you simply choose to wait until the voters have had the opportunity to make their decision, notwithstanding the fact that the duty was delegated. That decision ultimately is yours. Yeah.
I am in favor of allowing students who were enrolled at the end of the school year in 2014 to continue to come to Goffstown. And in fact, I might even be tempted to say anyone who's in the 7th or 8th grade moving forward could also attend. Potentially, that would be an area that I would like to discuss with everyone. I do not believe we can put together tonight a contractual agreement that has everything hashed out, and I base that comment on the many meetings I was able to make in negotiating out the area agreement. But I just wanted to make it public that I am in favor of allowing the Dunbarton, if they so choose, not to become part of a continuing area agreement.
Is Jane?
I, of course, would like the students to be able to attend here as well. If a Dunbarton plan is accepted, I'm not really comfortable in coming up with a tuition at this point because I really don't think we're going to have budget changes. And so I think we're going to have different student costs. So I'm not really comfortable in coming up with this tuition fee with all of the things that it includes before we really have an idea of how many kids that we're going to have.
It is certainly possible that you can ameliorate some of the uncertainty by addressing pieces of this. Is there any question around this table as we sit here tonight whether or not, in the event that the voters in Dunbarton choose to tuition their students to Bo, that you would not accept any students from the Dunbarton School District in grades 7 through 12 beyond the area agreement, provided we can come to a tuition agreement?
welcome to come. They're welcome to come in my book.
So is
My
there any?
spirit is for them to continue coming, period. They're welcome here.
I have one
Absolutely.
thought, though, in reading this over, and it talks about a special education student being able to, if their IEP so says, to the age of 21. And I think if we have a student who's in 7th grade right now, that's an awful lot of years to add a student with our special ed.
But you have to understand that Dunbarton pays for it.
They pay for it. They pay for most of it, but there's a lot of things that we need in place. That's a really long term.
I've just read this
And-
over, and I agree with Dan. I don't think we are going to be able to come to an agreement that is well thought out and developed in the course of this evening. I just don't think
Well,
we have
let's, and again,
Can I
Keith,
offer a
go ahead.
suggestion?
Sure.
I'm going to agree with both Diane and Dan on, I don't think we can craft it out, but can we give them a max of what the tuition would be? It will be no more than 110% of what you're paying now. Can we give them a ceiling for it? I mean, I think that's the security they're probably looking for. I don't think we'll have the formula figured out tonight, that's for sure.
Okay, well, for whatever it's worth, here are the things that you know. You have an existing tuition agreement codified in your area agreement. The other piece, financial piece of that is the rental charge. So there are two pieces of that, okay? You also have negotiated, but not agreed to until the voters agreed to it, a tuition and rental charge agreement that will continue beyond 2014. Those two things are different, okay? And those don't set 100% or 80% or 110%. What they do is look at the methodology for calculation, okay? So those, one, I think it's fair to say, and anybody who went through the work can correct me, one of those is somewhat clearer than the other. Given that we haven't had 10 years to try it out, we don't know whether it's completely clear. We just know that it seeks to correct, in the way of clarity, some of the things in your existing agreement, okay? The other difference is one says 2.5% for a rental charge. The other one says 2%. Okay? I think that fairly states the conditions that you exist under and the conditions that you will exist under should Goffstown, New Boston, and Dunbarton voters approve that area plan. Okay? The gap between those is largely 0.5%. Okay? The significant difference between those is the uncertainty created by the fact that there is, and without abusing or overusing the number, an issue unrelated to the calculation that is unresolved where the boards disagree. So the question is do you wait to see what the voters say? Do you do something tonight? Or do you do as much as you can tonight? And it's clear that we've agreed on at least one piece, which is we would be happy to extend an invitation and we'll commit to accepting students in grades 7 through 12 should the community of Dunbarton tuition their students to Bow beginning in July of 2014. Dan, you had your hand up first.
We negotiated the current area agreement 10 years ago. We've been working under. It apparently appeared to be somewhat fair and equitable. We negotiated. What I have here is a copy of the new Excel schedule of an area agreement that would go forward in 10 years. As I sit here today, my thought process would be, my intent would be to have something at least similar, if not identical, in intent and purpose. Knowing in government work when there is request for one government entity to perform services for another government entity at the state level. It is proper for them to be able to charge the cost of doing same, but they may not make a profit. I don't believe my idea on any kind of negotiations we would have is to make a profit. We would have to determine what the equitable part, and I think we got most of the basis of that done at the area agreement. And the piece that we don't know, that we can't put our hands on, was whether that 2% or 2.5%. But we know both numbers were there.
I have a question, and that would be, after sitting through a jillion area agreement meetings, there was a lot of discussion about the SAU assessment. And as I look at this and think about it, when we have all of these different things, kids can come half-time, homeschool kids can come, some kids cannot come, some kids can. There is a huge amount of work that someone's going to have to do to make all of this make sense and for our tuition bills to come out and really cover the costs of everything. And if they have an agreement with Bose SAU, who is going to do all this work? And I know Dunbarton was really against any assessment for SAU costs. So, you know, this is a big thing to me, is who is going to pull out all of these jillion pieces, daily enrollment and half-time students and homeschool students and IEP students, and you know, so that's why my thought is it's really hard to come up with a tuition until we really have a better idea of exactly what we're dealing with, and have an idea of who's going to be doing all this work and who's going to be paying for it.
I think there's more to this agreement than just a tuition charge. Transportation, state aid, etc. These things are going to cause some discussion more than just dollar figure. I think we can get some done tonight. I don't want a rough figure of tuition, but these other items, in my opinion, would require some discussion. But I agree with Keith's, in general, with Keith's statement of a ballpark figure, if we could agree on
Yeah,
it.
just put a ceiling on it. I don't think we can come up with the right exact number tonight. It's a lot to look into.
If Dunbarton chooses to tuition their students to Bow, and we move forward with a limited term tuition agreement, are we hindered by tuitioning other or wooing other districts to tuition their students to us? Does this preclude? Does this limit our chances?
That's a fascinating question. And I guess here are the things that I would point to. If you adopt the Dunbarton thesis that expiration ends and terminates all obligations, if you adopt that thesis, and I don't suggest that you should or shouldn't, then essentially what you do is eliminate from consideration any contractual obligations. That being the case, it's sort of a not really sure, because we don't have the guidance. And then it's up to whatever terms you reach. I'm not sure how much further that gets you down the road. If you look for guidance, you can look for the things that we've agreed to in the past or would agree to in the future.
That's my thought too. The tuition talks about it'll be whatever Goffstown is a party to. Well, we don't know what Goffstown will be a party to, because that will be something that New Boston and Goffstown has to sit down and decide.
Right.
So we really have nothing in advance that gives us any indication of what that number could be.
So one of the questions might be, are you, Dunbarton, willing to be subservient to the needs of the Goffstown School District, and if we have a better offer or an offer that guarantees us a stream of revenue, are you willing to allow your existing students to be displaced in favor of what is in the best interests of the Goffstown community? Certainly, the expiring and the new area agreement don't envision the possibility that that ever could have occurred. We also had no idea that a community as close as Hooksett could find itself in the position of saying, okay, we have an educational issue here that we may need to deal with. Is Goffstown an option? And certainly if and I think you point this out directly or indirectly, if that's a decision that the community of Goffstown finds itself in the unenviable position of having to make, do we have a choice? Or do we have to reject a suitor, because we haven't solicited, in favor of an obligation that we may or may not have now because there won't be any contract?
And the point of the matter is, unless all three communities vote positively for this, then we have no agreement. And Goffstown and New Boston, or whomever else is in, we sit down with, has to come up with agreement. So we don't know right now any idea of what that agreement might be. So I find it really hard to look ahead and come down with a tuition number at this point with so many variables. I think, like Keith says, we could do something ballpark, but I can't be held to a number right now. I just think there are too many things that we don't know the answer to.
Yeah.
And to amend my previous comments, the basis for what I would envision would be services being like service. As Hank pointed out, there's a provision here that said Dunbarton shall be under no obligation to provide transportation of Dunbarton students to or from GHS. Does that mean we would have to transport them? If that would be the case, then it would be additional cost to Goffstown to send a bus out or necessarily bring them back and forth. That's different from the current system, so I would have to amend the comment to say we have a framework as long as it's like services.
I guess I would make this observation about that particular provision. Transportation is not something that is required, and so I'm not sure that that
for
actually...
high school.
For high school.
For high school.
So I'm not sure that actually
So it may
properly
not
belongs...
actually
That
be,
I'm
so the
almost-
services
I'm
are
almost done.
like mine, so we're still back.
Well,
There might
I'm
be
almost-
other things in this document that I'm unaware of because I haven't read it that closely.
In fairness, whether, it may be that, at least with regards to GHS, the community of Goffstown has no place in the discussion over transportation. I suspect that it may well be that if we're sending buses to Bow with students, we don't want to pay for two sets of buses. That would be an issue that Dunbarton had with its voters, and a decision that that board would need to make individually. MVMS, again, that community is always taking care of its own transportation costs. They've negotiated their own contracts. So it may be that that's something that doesn't properly belong there. So I guess at this juncture, I need some direction about what the board would like to do. And here are your choices. You either take no further action tonight, which I think will probably mean putting us ahead far enough so that you'll have everybody's vote completed. Taking some action tonight, either on a complete or a limited basis, okay? That's the other choice. Yeah, that's sort of what it comes down to.
Negotiating it.
Or specifically directing the negotiation of an agreement.
I'm jumping into E now because they really are kind of together. E is the area agreement. If the article with the 3 towns, the area agreement fails, and the Bow-Dunbarton area agreement fails, we have one more opportunity. If the Dunbarton-Bow agreement passes, but the 3-town area agreement does not pass, I would presume that if it passed in both towns, then that is a done deal. Is that your understanding as well?
Here's my understanding of our agreement. If all 3 communities pass it, it passes.
Yes.
We're done.
If all 3 communities don't pass it, it doesn't, regardless of who doesn't pass it or what combination,
Right.
it fails.
I'm going,
And it has to go back to the voters the next year to be voted on.
not the
whatever
question.
comes up.
Right.
That one I totally understand.
So if we apply that to the Bow-Dunbarton plan, I assume the same rules apply. So
Totally agree.
if ours failed and that one succeeded,
There is no longer an opportunity for those 3 towns to be in an area agreement.
that's correct.
That is what I'm asking, if that's your understanding.
You are correct.
Okay. I want to see what the vote says. I am not ready to make a decision on, I gave my opinion of what I would negotiate, what I would talk to you about into seeing what it is. I am not ready to vote tonight on a number, on a tuition number. I mean, the range I gave was what I said. We have area agreements. We have an old one, we have a new one coming in. We worked very hard on it, seemed to be fair and equitable. You guys said, okay, let's put it on the ballot. We got a framework. If the services in that is similar to the services of what this page is, then it makes sense. That's as much as I can go, and that's as of reading it right now.
So I would entertain a motion from the floor from anybody. If there is no motion, I would end discussion.
I guess the only motion that I'll put out there for discussion purposes to see if the board is that we give them a ceiling of 110% of what they're currently paying.
For what? Only because, and I'm not being critical, I just want to make sure that I understand your motion.
Sure, I should
Because
say
there are
110%.
two elements. There is a tuition charge and there is a rental charge. Are you speaking about
Both. Combining both of them, what they're currently paying in this fiscal year under the current contract, will guarantee that the rate won't be more than 110% for the 14-15 school year.
so for
Just for
1
1 year
for 1 year
only?
only?
Because this has
Because
ramifications for
this
6
has
years.
ramification
Yeah.
for
Right.
as
Yes,
much as
I'm saying that 10% guarantee should only be for the first
This
year.
is not.
Can I make a point of order? Can we get a second before we discuss it? Because we might not get a second.
True, we might not.
I'll give you a second.
Is there a second in your head?
I'll have my hand up first.
I just think that's the security they're trying to get, but like we discussed at this table, it's very difficult for us to come up with a number right now. And, you know, I think that's about the most that we can offer them in form of security in a number at the moment.
Dan?
Ray,
What-
Ray, would you like to jump in?
Just a
and
thought. One of the other things to consider is your building aid that you receive from the state and the impact on that number.
That's true.
Should you now become a 2 district
You're right.
area versus a 3.
Based on that, I got to withdraw my motion.
Well, you can't withdraw it until Frank withdraws his second.
I can't second a motion.
There's a lot of variables.
Hey, will you withdraw your second?
Yes.
I withdraw my motion,
And you know what?
because I didn't even take that into consideration.
And that's it. I definitely sympathize with the desire
Really?
for security and for
Reduction.
comfort. I really do. But we also owe it to our community to make a very thoughtful and not to rush through a decision. This discussion here, we simply are not generating what needs to be generated.
And it could
for
cost
both
our
communities.
taxpayers money if we don't make the perfect decision.
Dan?
A number definitive would not be something I would vote in favor of, because our current area agreement talks about actual payments, budgeted payments, those kind of things. It's based on what is going to exist in 2 years. I don't know what the budget's going to look like in 2 years. I mean, heaven forbid it goes up 10%, okay? But we have no idea what the New Hampshire retirement system is going to do. We don't have it. So it's the steady number that I'm leery about. I still go back to the format and the type of calculation. It passed the area agreement people, so we all kind of got pieces of it that we liked enough to bring it to the state board. It's a framework.
Ginny?
I think maybe we can make a statement that says that we will accept the students, because we will. I mean, we've already talked about that, and that's already pretty much the consensus, that the students can continue to come here if they choose. And I think the other thing that they want to know is, will we have a fair and equitable tuition rate after we figure out all the details? And yes, we will. You know, we're not going to make a huge profit on it, because I don't believe that we can. Will it be fair and equitable? Yes, after we have all of the numbers, the questions answered that we need, and that's not going to happen until after we know exactly what we're dealing with, and that's not going to be until after a vote.
So realizing that fair and equitable may differ amongst the 20 people sitting in this room.
But I mean, by fair and equitable, I mean, you know, that what we're going to charge is what our costs are. You know, not add 25% just because we're, you know, cranky. But, you know, pulling all of the expenses together after we actually find out what those expenses are going to be, and it will be a fair number as to based on the expenses.
So it's fair to say that your goal, and I'm reframing it for you, is to give us sufficient time to eliminate uncertainty, and without creating more uncertainty than already exists. Jen?
Would a limited term tuition agreement need to go up to the DOE for
Yes.
approval?
No.
No?
It's
No.
depending on you can and you can't, depending on how there's some laws we can share at some point when you get there to determine whether both boards want to send it to the DOE or not.
Oh. I suppose you could agree to it.
Yes.
I don't know that it's an absolute. Any further discussion? Any motions to be entertained? That said, we'll move on to E, area agreement.
Thank you.
You have before you a proposed request to both the Dunbarton and New Boston school boards. It is for your review and consideration, and if you so choose, you may move it so that it gets sent. This is with regard to the existing area plan, which includes New Boston, Dunbarton, and Goffstown. The request is for the formation of an area committee to discuss the withdrawal of the Dunbarton School District. The letter relies upon the statutory framework, which does not consider whether or not the entity requesting the meeting is withdrawing. It simply makes it a possibility for discussion. This, of course, would be rendered moot by an affirmative vote of all of the communities, and therefore would come off the table. The purpose is to develop a plan that addresses the aforementioned and discussed tuition agreement, and would also address the issue that the districts have between them, which is whether or not there is any obligation for the rental charge, which basically captures the bonding. That is the $880,000, give or take, with adjustments, elephant in the living room. If the need arises, because there's not an affirmative vote, then I believe that it is the proper subject matter for an area meeting, and would suggest that to the benefit of your community, you request an area committee meeting, which will require each district appoint and send 3 members, so that a plan may be developed. The plan may have dissenters. Not everybody must agree to it. And eventually it would go before the DOE. I realize that you haven't had the opportunity to review or consider this. It would not need to happen until after the vote. If you chose, you could consider, evaluate, and decide at some later point. Or you may act tonight.
Two observations.
Yes.
One is in the top of page 2, should the word TO be inserted between the words limited and the word any?
Probably.
Okay. That's just because of the way it reads. But the second to the last paragraph, that's where I was reading to get to, because my first impression of this may be premature prior to the vote. But that paragraph also indicates that there may no longer be a need.
Right.
Would the need still arise? There's only one, because we talked about this a little earlier about yes and no. If for some bizarre reason a plurality of votes is gained for both area agreements on the Dunbarton ballot, what happens?
I don't. Again, there
Is
are
that
so
the
many
only-
different possibilities.
Well, that's the only provision I can see of this still being needed to be done. Because if...
Well, in theory,
yes,
I suppose there are a few different choices, or a few different outcomes, right? Everybody agrees, in which case it's rendered superfluous.
We call it yes.
Right. All 3 districts agree, then you no longer have a need. Okay.
Well, maybe.
Because you then have
because
an
is
area
that one
agreement starts in place.
What about if the Bow Dunbarton agreement also passes? Which one wins?
It would have to be a tie vote.
No, because it's
No,
not a
if they
single
both
article.
get
There are
enough
2
votes,
articles.
yeah.
If they both get a plurality of the votes.
if I
Okay.
can add, so I think that Dunbarton has made some provisions for that in the sense of one is its traditional school district meeting. So they would not allow, so they could go back
Oh,
and reconsider a
it's
vote.
not- they're not-
It's-
right.
They're not
So they're
students. So
traditional, so they're not bringing
the
first.
public is there to vote. So if two
Okay.
pass, they would need to go back and reconsider. They've made
Has there
provisions
been-
for that. to
Has there been
potentially
some
not
action
happen.
that the tri-town, if I can say it that way, would be first discussed prior to the...
All I know is I asked that question, and I received an affirmative answer. I don't know if that affirmative answer still holds true or not.
I can tell you that the Goffstown, Dunbarton, New Boston area agreement is first on the ballot
Okay.
for Dunbarton's meeting.
Okay. Which would make, if that passes, the word may could be changed on this letter to it's unnecessary to do this at all. That's my only comment.
Okay.
That would be a suggestion to say, should it pass, we don't need to do this, period.
Any other questions?
Is this something that can wait for next Wednesday?
It is entirely up to you. It is absolutely and completely entirely up to you.
What's next Wednesday?
I don't know what next Wednesday is.
Oh, after the vote.
Oh. Well, no, we would have to wait until our next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, in the text is a date specified that if we waited for 2 weeks, it's too far out. March 21st.
Well,
Are you making a motion to
I am.
instruct?
Okay.
If we put this off for 2 weeks, that would be.
Then if you put off making a decision, there would need to be some changes made in the text to allow for the opportunity for people to meet and schedule, et cetera. That's just so that for the people who don't know this, generally, we were meeting on Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. We would meet from 7 to 9 o'clock when we were going through the process of developing an area plan. So the sole basis for the selection of that date was it followed in short order the opportunity for everybody to vote, got it on the table, and was at a time and on a day of the week that previously, for that group of people, worked out.
I make a motion, we send this out. I think that the last paragraph covers it if it becomes a moot point, but certainly if it is necessary, then we need to be expedient in handling it.
Can you
All right,
do
I
that?
just, I'll be short. I made a motion that we go ahead and send this out.
Further discussion.
I'd rather wait 2 weeks and then see if it's a moot point.
Who seconded that?
Jenny.
Chinta.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would like to wait until after, I mean, there's no big rush. After the vote, then we can wait.
If everything else is being hinged on this vote, I say we have everything hinged on the vote.
Agreed.
Any other thoughts, feedback, recommendations, or suggestions?
If I could make a suggestion,
Yes.
because there will be a vote, that you mentioned the letter, but did you mention any of the 2 edits that I had mentioned as part of that?
I considered that as part of it. I didn't mention it
Okay,
specifically.
I just needed to have it as part of the record.
Like
that it
the
was-
typos and.
The only
whatnot.
typo I made, plus changing the word may to will, meaning we don't need to make, that's the only 2 things. If it should pass.
Hey.
Just in discussion, I think maybe it would be best to hold off. You might have new members by the next, all 3 boards might have new members.
Just looking to get it on the calendar and just move forward.
Yeah, 'cause you haven't got a date here for meeting, do you? I haven't finished reading it.
We do March 21st.
Which, to be perfectly honest, that could pose a problem for, it's a proposal. It's not an edict. But I also, I don't necessarily have any problem if the board decides, and not that it makes you, if you decide to wait and see what the vote is, fine. If you want to send it now, fine. I think there are two schools of thought. If there is there any further discussion?
I think I'll remove my second.
Okay.
Thinking that there may be different people on the board, people that will be on that committee or would like to be on that committee that aren't on the board now.
Yeah, that can be resolved.
It can be resolved easily.
Before that date, you
Yeah.
can pick the three.
I think it's a good idea to send it out. I don't know whether it's appropriate to send it immediately because of the change in the board.
Okay.
No, I don't think changing the board really has any effect on it. This is a matter of, it's just a matter of, do we feel this is the appropriate time to send out this letter? Because come March 21st, by then the votes will have been over, and we each can pick our three people to send over.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the next meeting date, it would be the 18th that we're scheduled to meet next.
Mm-hmm. Right, and we can
Just-
choose our three members at that point.
Yeah,
Short
just so you
notice
know,
if you're trying to move.
Dunbarton is meeting Wednesday. They won't meet again. New Boston doesn't have a meeting until the 20th. So just so you know that their timeline, so they would not be able to meet to discuss this until the 20th. So.
So I have a second that has been withdrawn.
Well, I'll put a second in then for a vote, so we can finish it.
Oh, my heavens.
Okay.
Keith will second.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion as presented? Opposed?
Opposed, nay.
Motion passed. Is it something that the board would like on the agenda for its next meeting?
Yes.
We will put it on there. Leave of absence. And teacher nominations? And co-curricular nominations?
Some student observers.
All right.
I think a little of everything
So
tonight.
the next four items are probably captured on this sheet of paper.
Yes, so, going around. I'm asking the board to approve a leave of absence for the remainder of the school year for Joanne Berry, who's a fifth grade teacher at Mountain View Middle School.
What does she teach?
Fifth grade.
No, what's her specialty?
Sorry? I don't know off the top of my head.
Is there a motion? Any motions? Second?
I'll second.
Diane? Any questions?
Are you in favor of this, I assume?
Yes.
You found it worthy of the...
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Very unanimous.
Okay, and so we're nominating then Angela Colvin for that position. She has been the long-term sub in that position up to this point, so it will be just a remainder of this year contract.
Is there a
I'll make that
motion?
motion.
Second? Ginny? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We're unanimous.
I'm bringing forward several co-curricular nominations for sports. Jamie Gratton for high school boys track, Mark Green for girls varsity tennis. That's a volunteer position. Both are new positions, not new positions, but new people to those positions. Bruce Hale for GHS girls JV lacrosse, again a volunteer. Sean Johnson, Mountain View spring track. Hunter Judd, high school JV baseball, again volunteer. Mike Lee, middle school spring track, again a volunteer. Tiffany McCarty for softball at the middle school. Dick Valier for girls varsity tennis, and Gary Walsh for girls varsity boys varsity tennis.
Is there a motion?
And the new positions were all recommended by Steve, I
Yes.
suspect.
Steve and Frank.
Ginny motions. Is there a second?
Second.
Keith seconds. Any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Very unanimous.
And just for notification, we have several just student observers, not student teachers, they're just observing. Jillian Murphy will be at Maple Ave with special ed. Lindsay Murphy will be at Maple Ave with regular ed. Kimberly Pachuco will be at Maple Ave with special ed. Brianna Rivard will be at Maple Ave with regular ed. And Lauren Sasso will be at Maple Ave with Jared Brooks and Key.
Can I ask a quick question on that? Normally, how many hours do they normally spend in observation?
They're all from SNU, and they have to do.
Thank you.
Six to 8 hours.
Okay.
Does SNU, I know in some school districts, SNU gives the teachers a course or some credits or some...
Yeah, I don't know what they do.
Do they?
I don't know if for observations they do, but I do believe for student teaching they get
They
some
do,
benefit
okay.
out of it.
Yeah.
So that's just notification.
How much do you use for student observation? That's why I was asking how many hours they had to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you asked the question, because my next question is, how many do we have? Because I've seen a lot of the observers coming in, because we have a long list now. We probably have
Yep,
over
they
a
come and
dozen,
go,
too.
yeah.
But it's 6 to 8 hours.
It's, they come in one day, they come
It's
in
not a
another day.
semester.
Yeah.
And sometimes I know the teachers like to have somebody come in because they have some new ideas of a new thing that's
Yeah, but you don't get that with the observers. They pretty much is.
Observers? I have in the past. Yeah. Just observers. Yeah. It's also a great opportunity for teachers to talk to them about their skill, like what they do on a daily basis, which is something you don't often get to do. Is really talk about why you're teaching something. So we're teaching reading this way because it's not a dialogue you often have, but when you have a student teacher or an observer, it's an opportunity to do that. Reflect on our practices.
We have a girl coming in to
The type of letter?
but she's a sister of a teacher here, and she's going to teach for America in an urban area. So she's just checking out schools. We get to talk to her about. She's going to be a social studies person. So.
Does she know where she's going to end up? What major urban area?
That's the Boston Metropolitan.
Boston Metro. Other business that may legally come before the meeting.
Speaking of which, just Teach America just gave me this thought. Shay Sinnott, who was our student representative, did Teach for America for 2 years and now is in law school. He's running for the budget committee. I'm just mentioning that.
It was kind of nice to hear him talk the other night.
Yeah.
We do have a non-public this evening. I need a motion to go into non-public pursuant to NHRSA 91A3, subsection E, consideration and negotiation of pending claims of litigation which has been threatened in writing or filed against the public body or any subdivision thereof, or against any member thereof because of his or her membership in such public body until the claim of litigation has been fully adjudicated or otherwise settled. Any application filed for tax abatement pursuant to law with any body or board shall not constitute a threatened or filed litigation against any public body for the purpose of this subparagraph.
That would be Roman 2 parenthetically. Are we able to also go in under parenthetical C?
Matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of a person other than a member of the public body itself unless such person requests an open meeting. This exemption shall extend to any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee or fine or other levy if based on inability to pay or poverty of the applicant. Is that part of the motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
I need Hank?
Yep.
Sam?
Yes.
Jenny? Keith? Diane?
Yes.
Jen? Lori? Thank you.